This morning, thousands of federal workers now at risk of losing their jobs, with President Trump set to discuss which programs to cut later today. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill this afternoon, the Senate expected to vote down another funding bill.
Unfortunately, Republicans have shown zero interest in even having a conversation.
We haven't wanted to negotiate. We just want to keep the government open. We wanted to pass a clean continuing resolution. We still do, to keep the government open, and then we can negotiate.
We'll bring you the latest from Washington and new developments in America's war on drugs as the Trump administration declares the U.S. is now in armed conflict with cartels. Plus, the FDA quietly approves a controversial abortion pill. We'll have the latest on that. And developing this morning, no relief for parts of the Southeast as a new round of storms rolls in on the heels of two powerful hurricanes. And in other parts of the country, it's about to feel like summer again, with temperatures up to 30 degrees above average. We're tracking it for you all weekend. And the curtain has risen for the life of a showgirl. That's right, Taylor Swift's highly anticipated 12th studio album dropped at midnight. It is clear Swifties were ready for it. And the album making history within hours of its release. More on the excitement, the Easter eggs, and what to expect next. Big day for Swifties out there. Good morning, everybody. I'm Aaron Gilchrist, in for Joe and Savannah. And we begin this morning in Washington. The Senate expected to once again vote on a plan to reopen the government on day 3 of the federal government shutdown. But it's not expected to move forward as both Republicans and Democrats show little signs of budging on their demands. President Trump has described the shutdown as an unprecedented opportunity to make cuts to federal spending. Yesterday, the president said he would meet with his budget chief to cut what he's calling Democratic agencies. The Energy Department has already announced it's canceling more than $7 billion in projects, most of which are in Democrat-led states. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of federal workers bracing for weeks without pay, and they're now also facing potential layoffs after White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said yesterday that it is likely the government could shed workers by the thousands. NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is standing by with more on President Trump's plans. But we begin with Julie Sirkin in Washington for us, watching things on the Hill. Julie, good morning. We know this is the third day beginning now of this shutdown. What have the effects of the shutdown been so far?
Yeah, well, Aaron, good morning to you. It'll really take until next week, I think, for a lot of these effects to crystallize for millions of Americans. If you're a federal worker, you've already noticed those emails, those signs and notices on agency websites, essentially blaming Democrats for the shutdown. And also, you'll notice that you're going to miss a paycheck soon. But if you're not in the federal workforce, there are still a ton of government services that now that the government shut down will impact you. For example, food assistance. I'm told checks will stop going out to women, infant and children who qualify for that program as soon as next week. If you're a tourist and you're trying to see the sites, whether you're in Pennsylvania or you're in D.C., you're going to a national park, you might see closed signs like the ones on your screen. So this is really having practical effects on millions of Americans. And by the way, the workers that are working without a paycheck, like at the airport, the TSA agents, you're going to give yourself more time if you're looking to do some travel there, Aaron.
You know, Julie, we have the administration threatening the spending cuts, layoffs potentially, but Democrats do appear to be standing by their demands for health care concessions. That's what they want from Republicans. What have you heard about why this is such a sticking point for Democrats?
Yeah, so it's policy and politics. As always, you cannot get out of D.C. without talking about politics. I'll start with that one. Look, for Democrats, health care has always been a winning issue, and so there's at this one right now. But practically, the administration already made significant cuts in their partisan bill earlier this summer on health care. And so Democrats really see this as their one shot to fight back. They are in the minority in the Senate and the House. Of course, they don't hold the White House either. So their only power lies within the power of the purse. And that's exactly why they're pitching this fight over government funding. At stake here is the Affordable Care Act, subsidies the Democrats expanded during COVID that will expire at the end of this year. Republicans don't like the way they were structured, but the reality is that even in red states, premiums could spike as much as 114% for people using that program. So this is a very real fight for Democrats, and they're saying we can't have this fight in November and December. People are picking out their plans in the next few weeks.
Well, we know it's not really uncommon, right, for politicians on opposite sides to do the finger pointing at each other over some of these issues. We also know the Education Department has employees there who this week were surprised while they're furloughed to find that their emails were automatically changed to sort of choose a side in this, right? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I'm not sure I've seen this, especially in the last shutdown in 2019. Under the first Trump administration, it lasted nearly 35 days. But now, even 48 hours after the government was shut down, you see those notices, like I mentioned at the top, on agency websites blaming, quote, the radical left for the shutdown. Those employees that you mentioned at the Department of Education, of course, many of them furloughed, some of them who are not essential, not working, they notice their out-of-office emails automatically updated without their knowledge to blame Democrats for the shutdown. The administration is looking to make this extremely painful for Democrats who they blame for the shutdown, even though, of course, Democrats are demanding those health care provisions. Republicans, at the end of the day, are offering a clean extension of current government funding levels. There are no, quote unquote, poison pills in that bill. And so in this case, of course, you see the White House trying to make this as painful and damaging as possible, trying to let the American people know that this is not our fault, the Republicans who are in charge. It is the Democrats' fault. Why? Because shutdowns are never popular for any political party, no matter who causes it.
So
Aaron?
Quickly before I let you go, Julie, we mentioned earlier that 2 Senate votes are scheduled. What are we expecting there? What do the numbers need to look like to actually get something passed?
Well, unfortunately, unless there's going to be some kind of miracle, because lawmakers, senators were out of town yesterday for the holiday, they're coming back today to take up once again a vote on the Democratic proposal that'll temporarily fund the government for about 4 weeks and include about $1 trillion in health care spending, something Republicans made very clear they are not going for at this juncture. And then they'll vote on the Republican plan, that clean extension of government funding levels for 7 weeks. Both of those votes are expected to fail in the Senate. Here's the thing. The House already passed their Republican plan. They're not back until Monday. Speaker Johnson staying strong, trying to keep his members away from the Capitol to make sure that they could force the Republican plan in that chamber. In the Senate, however, John Thune, the Republican leader, needs 5 more Democrats to join Republicans to pass it. So far, they were able to break off 3. Again, they need 5 more. No indication that's going to happen today.
All right, we'll be watching to see what, if anything, does happen. Julie Sirkin for us in Washington. Thank you. Let's get more on the shutdown now with NBC News White House correspondent here in the studio with us. So, Vaughn, we know that the president is going to meet with his budget director, Russ Vought, later on today. They're going to talk about what programs, what jobs to cut. What more do you know about what that meeting is going to be and what may be on the chopping block?
Right. As Julie just outlined there, Russ Vought, as OMB director, has openly suggested that they're going to seek to cut funding to certain projects. He has threatened, for example, some green energy projects in 16 different Democratic-led states. He has threatened funding to infrastructure projects here in the state of New York, but has also talked about the potential of these mass firings across federal agencies. And so for the president, he has already suggested that he is going to empower Russ Vought to be able to do that, but he has suggested that the 2 men are going to meet to be able to come up with some of those specifics here. And so this is the big question. You have seen deference even from Speaker Mike Johnson. But it's going to be a subjective decision by the OMB director. This is Donald Trump's White House really trying to take an executive branch and empower it while the legislative branch down the road in Congress is unable to come to terms with funding the government.
So it could be a painful swipe for a lot of folks. I want to ask you about a couple other things while I have you here. We know the administration sent this memo to Congress yesterday saying that the U.S. was now in, quote, armed conflict with drug cartels, right? We know this comes a couple of weeks after there were some strikes on at least 3 boats from Venezuela that the administration said were allegedly carrying drug traffickers. What exactly does this designation from this administration mean at this point?
Once again, there are a lot of legal questions here, but that didn't stop the administration from moving forward with this, right? This essentially puts drug cartels in the same level as Al-Qaeda or ISIS as terrorist organizations. And the administration is using this designation not just to justify the strikes that we are apparently saying here on these 3 Venezuelan boats. There's still a lot of unanswered questions from the military and from the White House about exactly who were on these ships here. But this would also call into question the intent of the military here moving forward. There's been considerations, for example, about strikes within Venezuela. We should note, though, Democrats and some Republicans have aggressively pushed back against the White House, saying that this is a law enforcement issue, drug trafficking, drug cartels, not a military one, and it is up to Congress to authorize military strikes, and that has not happened here in this situation.
All right, so we'll see what the next shoe is to drop on this one. I want to ask you about this new survey that's out. We know that President Trump's second term, his return to the White House, was really driven by younger voters who supported him in pretty significant numbers. There's a new focus group, and the results come from some of these younger voters. It's out today. What have they got to say so far about this second term?
Right. If you go back in 2024, now President Trump, he increased his share of young voters, 18 to 29, by almost 12 percentage points. And young men, he actually beat Kamala Harris, gaining half of their support. And so this is where the big question here is, 1 year out, where does their support, how do they feel about this administration? In this focus group conducted by NBC News with two research firms, one of the moderators from those research firms suggested that there is some frustration among some of these young men that either President Trump has gone too far, for example, on tariffs and immigration, but others saying that he hasn't gone far enough with, for example, ending these wars overseas or releasing of the Epstein files there. And these are 14 Trump voters, young Trump voters there, that have said that they question their vote, not necessarily that they would support Democrats in the future or that it's a better alternative in their mind, but there is still some soft support for the president here after there are questions about some of the campaign commitments that he made. And here in 2025, the lack of reality on several of those fronts.
All right, we'll get another flavor for how they're feeling a little bit later on in the administration. Vaughn Hillier, we appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
And speaking of the shutdown, the FDA quietly approved the generic form of mifepristone right before it began. Mifepristone is one of two drugs used in most abortions in this country. The combination induces abortions. The new approval marks the second generic version on the market. The first was cleared back in 2019. The FDA did not put out a press release on this decision, and it comes less than 2 weeks after Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the agency would look into the medication's safety. In some developing news overnight, a massive fire broke out at the Chevron oil refinery in El Segundo, California, just south of Los Angeles. Take a look at the video here. You can see that large plume of black smoke, the big flames in the air there. Multiple fire departments working to fight the flames here overnight, which are now contained. It's still unclear, though, how that fire started. Neighbors, though, tell NBC Los Angeles they heard a loud bang before seeing. Chevron says no injuries and all refinery personnel and first responders have been accounted for. That refinery is the largest on the West Coast. It supplies about 20% of all motor vehicle fuel and 40% of the jet fuel consumed in Southern California. Another soggy start in parts of the Southeast today. We have the details on the wet weather there and a look at the weekend with your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joining us for a look at that. Hey, Michelle, good to see you.
Good to see you, Aaron. Always good to see you on a Friday, especially. And yeah, we're looking very soggy in the southeast, not only today, but also tomorrow into Sunday. So you may want to make those indoor plans, especially in Florida, because we're looking at the chance for some very heavy rainfall, some thunderstorms, some gusty winds, and localized flooding, especially along the east coast of Florida. So we're looking at flood alerts stretching from places like Fort Pierce to Melbourne, down to Daytona Beach, or up to Daytona Beach. And this is why we have the remnants of Melda coming on shore, and that's going to be in place not only today, but through Sunday. So heavy rain targeting the Sunshine State. Moisture funnels in from the Atlantic, and when it does that, it has a lot of ample moisture with it, and that's why we're looking at the chance for some localized. See those darker colors kind of spinning into the state. That's where we're going to see the heaviest amounts of rain. So additional rainfall on Saturday, too. Moving onshore, we're going to see that flood threat continuing on those saturated grounds, leading to more localized flooding. And then as we near Sunday, we're looking at the chance for some heavy rain. We're looking at the chance for localized flash flooding, some gusty thunderstorms also. So the active pattern does continue all weekend long. And we're looking at high rainfall totals here. We're looking at 2 to 5 inches likely, but even higher than that in some spots, 6 to 8, especially where you see those darker colors. Notice it's not just Florida by the weekend through Sunday. We're looking along the Gulf Coast too. So that includes New Orleans, places like Pensacola, Jacksonville, also in the mix for some very heavy rainfall. That's one big weather story today. Also, another big weather story is Feeling like summer in many spots in the plains, into the upper Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes. We're going to break a lot of records. So where you see those red dots, that's where we're looking at the chance for some records falling. That includes 12 different states. So really warm out there. We have a big area of high pressure bringing in that warmth. And we're looking at temperatures soaring into the 80s, into the 90s. That's about 15 to 30 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. You notice that jet stream. It's lifted so far to the north, kind of closing off any cooler air coming down from Canada. And temperatures will soar into the upper 80s in Minneapolis. That's 24 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. I know we're ready for the pumpkin spice, the pumpkin donuts, the fall-like weekends, but it's going to feel like summer in many, many spots. Wichita, 87, 12 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. That heat extends into portions of New England, too. So temperatures into the 70s today, into the 80s. Tomorrow, that's about 12 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. We think you're going to top out right around 81. Lots of upper 80s on the map. Once again, tomorrow near 90 degrees in some spots, 87 tomorrow in Oklahoma City, 91 degrees in San Antonio. And Aaron, we're going to see this warm weather extend into next week, where the northern plains, we're going to fall back into those fall-like temperatures, but the heat kind of does hold on for many days to come. Back to you.
Yeah, summer just doesn't want to let go yet. It'll stick around for a little bit longer. Michelle, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, in just a few hours, disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs will be sentenced in a courtroom here in New York City for 2 federal prostitution-related convictions. Now, prosecutors are asking for more than 11 years in prison, but Combs' attorneys are asking for just 14 months. Now, if that happens, since he's already been in jail for about 13 months, he could be released as early as November. And overnight, Combs wrote the judge a letter apologizing to his accusers, including ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, and pleading for mercy. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. So, Danny, I do want to start with the sentence we're talking about here, right? Prosecutors looking for 11 years in federal prison. The defense attorneys are pushing basically for time served at this point. A big gap here. How much wiggle room does the judge really have in making a sentencing decision, and what would you expect to happen in court today?
Short answer, there's a lot of wiggle room, and there are no mandatory minimums involved here. Combs' team beat the charges that carried mandatory minimum sentences, so the judge has tremendous discretion here. And federal sentencing is a strange place. Here's why. There are these complex federal sentencing guidelines that you're supposed to plug in all the factors of a particular conviction, and then it spits out a sentencing range in months. But this is a great example. You can see how each side calculates them dramatically differently. One side, the defense says, well, no, this should only be 14 months. The prosecution says, not only should this be 11 years, we actually think it should be 20 years, the statutory maximum for these sentences. And ever since 2005, the Supreme Court said these sentencing guidelines are not mandatory. So a situation where the judge is going to calculate them, and then he doesn't have to follow them. He can just go with his gut. And my feeling is the judge has revealed slightly that his gut feeling is that this is a more serious case than the defense suggests. So I would look for a sentence of something more than what Diddy's team is asking for, but less than the 11 years.
Can you give us an idea of what other or what bigger points a judge might consider in making a decision like this? Are we going to hear from some of the victims in court today?
Yes, you will. And you're likely going to hear from Sean Diddy Combs himself. Although the choice whether or not to allocute for the defendant himself to address the court is always a difficult one. And candidly, most of the time, it's not a good idea. Defendants are simply not well equipped to explain to the judge or convey to the judge their remorse. They often make mistakes, like, for example, focusing on how this conviction has affected me and it's made my life worse. You should not do that to a judge. Instead, victims, show concern for your victims. The problem is most defendants are so self-interested, they're just not very good at allocution. So I think what Diddy's team did as a compromise is submit a letter. Whether or not he actually speaks today, I'm not entirely sure he will. He may have already spoken, and I use that in air quotes, with the letter he submitted to the court yesterday.
Well, let me ask you about this letter, right? The letter to the judge where Combs says that he's been humbled and broken to his core. We talk about the victim impact statements, and we know the value and the import that those have in a courtroom setting. But bearing this letter in mind, how effective do you think a letter like this could be in swaying the judge's sentencing decision?
I've never put a lot of stock in letters because if you're a well-heeled defendant, you can get letters from senators, from priests, from all these different people. But most people who are economically disadvantaged, they don't know any influential people to write letters on their behalf. That being said, Combs' defense team has done a very good job with these letters, including from inmates saying that Combs has tutored them. They've done an excellent job. And when you have someone with Combs' resources, you try to get a lot of letters. Here's the thing. That letter Combs wrote, I'd be willing to bet Combs had very little to do with writing that letter. It's probably $50,000 worth of attorney's fees of eyes looking at that he talks about the abuse, admitting to the abuse. That's very key because he was not charged with abuse. He's charged with other crimes. And that's the tightrope that defendants walk. Do you show remorse? But if you do, you might affect your ability to claim I'm innocent on appeal.
All right. We know you'll be watching to see exactly what happens today. Danny Savalas, we appreciate it. The pastor who once led one of the biggest churches in the country pleaded guilty to sexually abusing a young girl in the 1980s. His admission yesterday comes after an NBC News investigation helped bring the allegations of abuse to light. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has more and a warning. Some of the details are disturbing.
Thank you, Jesus, for
the man who once led one of the largest congregations in America, walking into an Oklahoma courthouse, pleading guilty to sexually abusing an underage girl.
This has taken my entire lifetime to get here.
That girl was Cindy Clemishire, now 55. Inside the courtroom, delivering a message to her abuser through tears, as Gateway Church founder Robert Morris admitted to 5 felony counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child in the 80s.
People need to know who he is, that he came into our home as a pedophile, disguised as a preacher.
The abuse began on Christmas night in 1982, Cindy says, when she was 12 and Morris 21. It continued for years. A secret Cindy kept until 1987, when she told her parents and church leaders, and for the first time last year, shared publicly.
He started by touching my breast and putting his hands in my pants.
Decades passed. Morris grew into an evangelical powerhouse, even serving on President Trump's Spiritual Advisory Council, at times alluding to past transgressions in his sermons.
Sexual temptation is an appetite of the flesh, and I developed an appetite before I was saved.
His sins that NBC News reported on last year, now officially crimes. Morris handed a 10-year sentence, though he will only serve 6 months in a county jail as part of the negotiated plea deal. He will also have to register as a sex offender and pay $250,000 in restitution.
There is hope to come out of shame and to be whole again. And that's my hope for me, my hope for other victims, and even for Robert.
For this survivor, justice decades delayed, but no longer denied. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
And there is much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, scam alert. Security experts warning thieves may be using the shutdown to steal from those most in need. What you need to know to protect yourself. But up first, terror in Manchester. New details about the suspect and the victims in a deadly attack at a British synagogue on Judaism's holiest day of the year. We'll be right back. And welcome back. The possible transfer of military hardware is heightening tensions overseas as Russian President Vladimir Putin delivers new warnings to the U.S. and its NATO allies. His comments come as President Trump considers sending long-range Tomahawk missiles to NATO, which would then pass them along to Ukraine to help that nation execute strikes in Russian territory. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons reports.
Russian President Vladimir Putin accusing Europe of threatening Russia and stability, saying Russia's response to threats, to put it mildly, will be very convincing, and warning President Trump as the US considers selling Tomahawk missiles able to strike Moscow to NATO, which is expected to then give them to Ukraine. Saying we will shoot them down, but calling it a brand new stage of escalation with the US. All while Ukraine's President Zelensky meeting European leaders, pushing for long-range capability.
And we spoke about long-range missiles, long-range weapon. I mean, we spoke about it. It's significant.
And despite escalating drone incursions across Europe, closing airports, Putin denying this ship was linked to Russia, it's just been seized by France as a suspected drone launch station. Putin praising President Trump, weeks after they met in Alaska, as someone who truly listens, while teasing Trump for playing golf with world leaders, saying Donald says he's a good golfer. Well, that's good, but not good enough. Putin denying his economy is weakening despite lines at some gas stations, even as Ukraine targets oil installations aiming at Russia's economic supply lines.
Let them get their land back. Yep. So we'll see how it all works out.
And after President Trump's major shift last week, saying Ukraine could reclaim all its original
It could be that Russia's a paper tiger. I don't know what they are.
Putin's responding, quote, a paper tiger? What then of NATO itself?
Our thanks to Keir Simmons for that report. Now, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov also told reporters that any U.S. shipments of Tomahawk missiles will, quote, require an adequate response from the Russian side. In the Middle East now, Israel is continuing its assault on Gaza City, flattening buildings and neighborhoods there as it issues a last-chance ultimatum for people to leave that city. Health officials in Gaza say dozens of Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks over the past few days, while thousands of people are being forced to evacuate in yet another displacement. All this comes as Hamas says it is continuing to study the U.S.-backed 20-point peace proposal. And meanwhile, protests are breaking out around the world in a show of support for the global Shamud flotilla, which was attempting to break Israel's aid blockade by bringing in much-needed food and medicine to Gaza. All of the boats have now been captured by Israel, which has detained more than 450 activists, politicians, and lawyers on board as well. They now face deportation back to their home countries. In the UK, police have named the victims of Thursday's deadly attack outside a synagogue, which has now been declared a terrorist incident. Yesterday morning, a man drove a car into a crowd and then stabbed people at that synagogue in Manchester. 2 people were killed, 3 others seriously hurt. Police killed the suspect, a 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent. 3 other people have been arrested. This all happened on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Manchester, UK, with more on this. So, Raf, good morning. I want to start with the latest on the victims of this attack. We know this morning we found out that one of those victims was actually hit by police gunfire. Talk to us about what you're learning today.
Yeah, Aaron, so more than 24 hours on from this attack, you can see the synagogue behind me still very much an active crime scene, and authorities here trying to piece together exactly what happened in those chaotic moments yesterday morning when the attacker first rammed his car into worshippers, then jumped out and began stabbing people. They have now named the 2 Jewish men who were killed in the attack. They are Adrian Dolby and Melvin Kravitz. They were both worshippers here. And as you say, police are this morning acknowledging that one of the 2 victims, they aren't saying which one, suffered a gunshot wound. It appears he was shot accidentally by police when they were shooting the attacker. There are 3 other victims seriously injured. One of them injured when the car came crashing in, a second suffering stab wounds, and the third appears also, Aaron, to have been hit by a bullet. It looks this person was inside of the synagogue trying to hold the doors, trying to keep the attacker at bay. And one of those bullets, it seems, passed through the door and hit these innocent people. Aaron.
Raf, you know, for a long time yesterday, we didn't know whether the suspect had been killed by police because they were trying to figure out whether he was wearing an explosive device, right? What do we know about him, and is it clear what these other arrests are related to?
Yeah, it's very striking. When you watch video from the scene, you can hear both police officers and passers-by all believe that the attacker is wearing some kind of explosive suicide vest. So after he was shot by police, it took them a while to get the bomb squad in and deploy a robot to make sure that he did not, in fact, have any explosives. He has now been identified as Jihad al-Shami. British authorities are saying he was a 35-year-old British citizen. He was born in Syria. He came to this country as a child and was naturalized here. And there is now this very, very extensive investigation underway trying to determine whether he acted alone or whether he was part of a larger organization. 3 other people, 2 men in their 30s and 1 woman in her 60s, also arrested here in the Manchester area on suspicion of preparing acts of terrorism. At this point, we don't have details of what they are alleged to have done. Aaron.
And Raf, this attack happened on Yom Kippur, right? We know it also took place as Jews report rising anti-Semitism all around the world. What has Britain's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, had to say to the community in the aftermath of such a tragedy?
Yeah, Aaron, so the Prime Minister came up from London this morning. He actually visited the scene here, and he says he understands that for Jewish people in this country, around the world, for an attack like this to happen on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, is truly shocking. It's left many, many people here feeling deeply unsafe. Take a listen to a little bit more of what he said in his statement.
While this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with. We must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again. And Britain must defeat it once again. On behalf of the nation, I want to offer my condolences to the families and victims affected.
And the Prime Minister is saying he has ordered police to step up security at synagogues and Jewish institutions across this country to try to reassure the Jewish community that they are safe here and they are being protected. Aaron.
Well, as the government shutdown drags on, there's an urgent warning from security experts this morning. People who receive government benefits should be extra careful when sharing sensitive information. And that's because scammers are using the shutdown as an opportunity to take advantage of somebody in crisis. Scott Budman from NBC Bay Area has the details.
The government is shut down, but scammers have gone to work.
So we're seeing attacks scale up.
Taking advantage of the fact that we rely on the government for services, money, all sorts of things now on hold.
Hackers are opportunists. What they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, we see this government shutdown. There's no legitimate government organization that might be reaching out. So how about we do that? We're going to capitalize on that fear.
Among the top scams, according to Silicon Valley security companies, threats to take away your government benefits unless you hand over data, offers for money to those worried about government funds like Social Security during the shutdown, and fake job offers. In other words, preying on our anxieties.
Our health, our money, our schools, all the government services that we've come to rely on.
So how do you avoid becoming a target? Local security executive Michelle Dennedy says if an offer seems too personal or unusual in any way, don't trust it.
Would my congressman or senator take the time to email me?
Fair point.
Probably not. Slow down. Think about, does the DMV come to your home? No. Do they text me? No.
All right, our thanks to Scott Budman for that report. Now, if you or someone you know has been a victim of a scam, you should immediately contact your bank to block any fraudulent transactions. The Federal Trade Commission also advises if you're targeted by a scammer, file a report with that agency. This helps the FTC track scams. Of course, though, right now, the FTC is closed because of the shutdown. Well, coming up, Tesla sued by the family of a teenage girl who says the doors of a Cybertruck are to blame for her death. The lawsuit just filed. Plus, the beauty industry getting a makeover. Big brands turning away from traditional partnerships and turning to social media instead. More on the transformation next on Morning News Now. We are back now with an exclusive look inside GMC's design center as that company says it's on track to have its best year of sales ever. That's driven in part by the company's investment in electric vehicles. EVs now make up nearly 10% of all car sales in this country. That's a new record, according to Kelley Blue Book. NBC News senior consumer investigative correspondent Vicki Nguyen has everything you need to know if you're in the market for a new vehicle.
This is top secret.
Oh, absolutely top secret.
Wow.
At the GMC Design Center in Warren, Michigan, engineers and designers are hard at work on trucks and SUVs that won't be out for 2 to 3 more years.
Clay sculpting was a process that was created by General Motors Design very early in the 20s, and it's a process that the industry still continues to use today.
Some models literally under wraps from our cameras, but it's no secret that GMC's parent company, GM, is leaning into electric vehicles, the only American car maker to say they want to go all electric. New EV sales in August climbed to a record 146,000, and EVs now make up 1 in 10 cars sold in the U.S., according to Kelley Blue Book. GMC says it sold a record number of EVs this year, with U.S. sales up 110% from last year.
GMC is the only brand to have 3 electric truck offerings for our customers.
GMC Global VP Jacqueline McQuaid took me for a spin in the Hummer EV SUV, the brand's most expensive offering at about $100,000. It also comes as an electric pickup truck.
This is very smooth, very quiet.
Yes. For a vehicle this size.
Yeah. What do you hear from people who get into the Hummer electric vehicle for the first time?
Well, first we hear a lot, I didn't realize it was electric. And then we hear, I can't believe I can get 325 miles of range.
McQuaid showing us the Google mapping that plans your route based on battery range and charging stations.
Hey, Google, route me to Ludington, Michigan. It's recommending that I charge at Grand Rapids, and if I do that and I use it for 21 minutes, I'll be at 30% charge when I get. And so it's helping me plan my route, and it's giving me that confidence.
GM now offering access to 250,000 chargers, including Tesla's supercharger network. Chief engineer LaRon Maxey says range anxiety is one of the biggest barriers for consumers used to gas cars, a problem they've tried to solve with the Sierra EV truck.
How long can it go on a single charge?
It can go 478 miles, the specific one we're sitting in.
But the company says it is meeting drivers where they are, still producing gas-powered compact SUVs starting at $30,000. With average new car prices sitting just above $49,000 and average used car prices at $25,000, car buyers can still find deals, according to Kelley Blue Book Executive Director Brian Moody.
There's lots of inexpensive new cars. Nissan, I think, has 6 cars that are priced around $30,000.
How are tariffs right now affecting car buyers?
Well, they're driving the prices of cars up slowly, but often automakers are hiding the price of the tariffs by either absorbing the cost themselves or spreading it out over multiple vehicles.
He says buyers should ask themselves what they need in a car, line up their financing, and shop multiple dealers. If you haven't shopped for cars in a few years, the options have changed a lot, with more innovation on the way.
We really, truly believe that profitable electric vehicle production is the long-term future.
Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
All right, staying with your business headlines. This morning, the family of a teenage car crash victim is pointing the finger at Tesla. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with those details and our Wall Street headlines as well. Silvana, good morning.
Aaron, good morning to you. Yes, so the parents of a college student killed in a Tesla crash filing suit Thursday, alleging she was trapped in the car when it burst into flames because a design flaw made it nearly impossible to open the door. Now, they also allege that Tesla knew about the flaw for years but didn't address it. Tesla has yet to comment on the suit. Apple announced late Thursday that it's removing IceBlock and other apps from its app store that allow people to anonymously report sightings of immigration agents. In a statement to NBC News, Apple said the apps were removed based on information the company received about safety risks from law enforcement. The FBI said last week that the gunman who targeted an ICE facility in Dallas had recently searched apps that track ICE agents. And our parent company, NBC Universal, announcing it's reached a long-term agreement with YouTube TV, ending the threat of a blackout. So in addition to the full slate of NBC Universal's networks, YouTube TV will also carry the NBC Sports Network, which will relaunch this fall. NBC's Peacock streaming service will also be available in the coming months as a subscription through YouTube premium channels, Aaron.
All right, good to know. Silvana, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the business of beauty is having a major glow up. The industry makes nearly $400 billion a year, and that number continues to grow. Major retailers like Sephora and Ulta are oversaturated with products as brands feel the need for more viral moments. From partnering with content creators to collaborating with nostalgic non-beauty brands, it all comes back to the audience changing the way they shop and who is doing the shopping. NBC News correspondent Maya Eaglin explains.
The booming beauty business getting a bit of a marketing makeover to target a younger and even savvier online audience, with teens still piling into beauty stores and more influencers capturing the latest trends.
Come shopping with me at Sephora.
Looking to cash in on a $336 billion a year business. Teen spending going up, and up over the past few years, reaching double the growth of the market overall in 2023 alone. Gen Z spent 10% more on skincare than last year, on average forking over $2,000 a year for beauty products. And it's skincare they want most, an eye-popping $167 billion in market share last year. Makeup raking in just half of that haul, $82 billion. And social media is full of creators and celebrities trying to cash in.
Growing up, I grew up as an ugly kid. Finally, I started to explore makeup when I was in college, and I found it being the most beautiful outlet to finally feel beautiful.
Cynthia Victor is a beauty influencer with over 2 million followers across social media. She partnered with Ulta this past year.
Some celebrities I do want to say, I think, come in, it's like a fun little cash grab or just like a PR moment. And then some people come in and they're like, no, this is something I truly believe in. This is something I want to make a change in.
In the last year, mega makeup stores ramped up collaborations with celebrities and influencers, like Hailey Bieber's Rode Beauty, now in Sephora for the first time since the company debuted online. Newer brands outpacing some of the top players that have been on shelves for decades.
You see celebrities like Rihanna, Selena Gomez, and Hailey Bieber who are really driving the biggest trends. Those brands will have a product go completely viral on TikTok and then sell out at Sephora overnight. So it's not that the classic heritage brands are gone, it's just that the playing field has completely changed.
Sephora also just rolled out an influencer-forward platform called Sephora Storefront, where creators share recommendations and make commissions.
Sephora is now betting on influencers and their storefront. So they know customers don't just want to see a product, they want to see how people are using it, and they want to see it in real life.
Sephora declining to comment to NBC News at this time, but its VP of marketing saying in another interview, across the board, whether it's sports, celebrity, or music, there's no realm we won't get into if we think it's the right partner. Sephora shooting its shot in sports. The WNBA's Golden State Valkyries, and Unrivaled, a new 3-on-3 women's basketball team based in Miami. The name literally stamped on the team's courts. This strategy driving even more unexpected sponsorships for smaller brands, like Charlotte Tilbury, partnering with the Formula One Academy to sponsor female drivers.
The car, helmet, gloves, special Charlotte Tilbury names.
Some behind the wheel sporting pink race cars in last year's Indy 500. With Elf Cosmetics as a sponsor. But while some alliances are breaking industry barriers, others sparking some questions.
Are these the collabs that we want to see? I don't think I really need like an Elmo palette.
Some brands banking on nostalgia to bring in customers, trying to appeal to established fandoms, no matter how old or young fans might be.
Those are trends that you've been seeing kind of across the board, right?
Totally. And there are some brands now that are focusing their efforts to cater to those, I guess, children and tweens. The sky's the limit when it comes to these collaborations.
So while some cosmetic companies have done an about face based on trends,
makeup is something that's always evolving, and being a little creative with it might be a little gimmicky. You know, you just can't yuck everybody's yum.
We'll just have to see what looks end up being timeless. Maya Eaglin, NBC News.
All right, coming up, the spotlight is on the life of a showgirl. That's right, Taylor Swift's new album is officially out, and already it's making history just hours after its release. We're going to pull the curtain back on all the excitement for you. Swifties, get ready for it. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. Well, we end this hour with the moment millions of Swifties have been waiting for. Taylor Swift's 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl. It is finally here. These 12 highly anticipated tracks dropping at midnight. It was not only the most pre-saved album on Spotify ever, Some users reported that the amount of traffic actually crashed the streaming service for a little while. For more on the pop superstar's new album, I'm joined by Will Njovu. He's an entertainment host. You listen to the album.
Yes.
You love it?
Love it.
Good.
I stayed up until midnight, listened to absolutely everything. And you know what? It did live up to its hype. Now, social media is going crazy. I am particularly obsessed with her collab with Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay.
This tune obviously is called The Life of a Showgirl. And it kind of is just about the price of fame. It's kind of like, you know, do you really want it? And I feel like her collabing with Sabrina on this was just perfect because those are two of the world's biggest pop stars right now, so it's absolutely iconic. Critics are predicting that this could be Taylor's biggest album ever.
Really?
Yeah.
And you agree? I mean, you felt...
Listen,
every track, just track after track
yeah,
after
because,
track.
you know, Taylor just keeps, like I said, she keeps pop alive, and it's
Yeah.
just like, she really is an inspiration to, I think, young women, and it's just brilliant. Like, I love it. The melodies, everything.
So we know that the celebration for fans is really just only beginning for this album with this drop. There's also a special movie feature happening, apparently, that's in select theaters around the country,
and
right?
the movie is called Release Party of a Showgirl. That's going to be airing over the weekend. But this is actually going to be like a behind-the-scenes film showing fans how was the album put together, you know? What was it like in the studio? All of that kind of stuff. And can I just say, on my way in today, driving through New York, there were fans outside of like Taylor Swift T-shirts, Taylor Swift flags, like all around the world. And Taylor is doing... I've never seen a pop star do a press run like this. Hello, my friend's from London. I'm like, how is she there? How is she there? Like, the talk shows everywhere. Like, she is on every big talk show pretty much in the country.
So what do you make of that? I mean, given the fact that you don't typically see that sort of thing.
But look, I think she deserves it. She is, in my opinion, the biggest pop star in the world. And again, this album is absolutely phenomenal, and I do feel like it will be her best.
And the film that's coming out this weekend, you said it's a behind-the-scenes look. People are already getting some ideas about what exactly is in there, or no?
You know, and it's about the creative process. You know, how did she put this together? You know, like, what was it like in the studio? All of those behind-the-scenes exclusive clips, and also some, maybe like some unseen and unheard parts from the album which we haven't heard already.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk about some of the speculations and the fan theories. Now, she has a tune called Cancelled. And a lot of people are speculating that this could maybe be about her friendship fallout with Blake Lively.
Okay.
Now, we know that they fell out in the midst of the Justin Baldonia drama and all of that stuff. Now, some people are saying, hey, you know, could that be about Blake Lively? We don't know. I want to talk about the Lady Gaga parallels as well.
Okay.
So, Taylor Swift announced this album on August the 12th.
Right.
Lady Gaga released her big tune Applause on August the 12th. Now, people are speculating that maybe this is a sign, Aaron. Maybe this could be some sort of like a collaboration which is brewing. And I'm not trying to be funny, but a Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift collaboration would be my Christmas come early. So please,
it would break everything.
Please.
The internet, the universe would start shimmying a little bit.
Everything. But again, like I said, you know, like this album really has lived up to its expectations, and I feel like this is just the beginning, as you say, of this promo run. Again, so many like fan pop-ups across the country: London, LA, New York. It's going to be a treat.
And it's going to be something because Taylor does these, what do you call them, Easter eggs, right? She leaves these little nuggets out there. So she kind of has to deliver on that in some way.
She has to deliver. And of course, people are saying that because she's only got 12 songs, people don't believe that that's kind of it, you know? Taylor has previously said in an interview that, nope, that's it. Just 12 songs, nothing else. But fans are predicting that maybe we could get like a deluxe track or maybe like a deluxe album or something, or just a bit more. But I think that it might happen, you know? I feel like she's just teasing the fans.
So what, the rest of the weekend, Swifties are just waiting for another track to drop?
Just
tonight,
digging.
Tomorrow night?
just digging. And I am one of the people digging all weekend, just digging.
All right, we're going to be waiting to see what happens. It's fandemonium all over the world for Taylor Swift. As it should be.
As it should be.
All right, well, we appreciate it. Will Njovu, thank you for joining us this morning. And for more on the impact Taylor Swift's brand is having on everything from music to fashion to sports, philanthropy, you can watch the first episode of Season 2 of The Swift Effect, airing at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, right here on NBC News Now. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Friday. I'm Aaron Gilchrist, in for Savannah and Joe today. Right now on Morning News Now, no end in sight. Today is the third day of the government shutdown as lawmakers remain at odds over federal funding. The Senate will be back in session on Capitol Hill. In the meantime, many federal workers could face job losses as soon as today, leaving many families in limbo. This as President Trump said he'll meet with his budget director to discuss potential job and program cuts. The latest from Washington just ahead. It is sentencing day for Sean Diddy Combs after being convicted of 2 prostitution-related charges earlier this year. What the music mogul has written in a new letter to the judge who will be sentencing him. Combs was acquitted of the most serious charges against him and faces a maximum of 20 years behind bars. A preview of what to expect. Also this morning, paycheck to paycheck. A new report is putting the spotlight on money woes for Americans across the country. It shows many people are struggling to save for retirement. We'll tell you what you can do to stay ahead. And are you ready for it? Taylor Swift's brand new album, The Life of a Showgirl, it is out right now. Swifties overnight listening to every new track on her 12th album. We'll bring you all the reaction to the new material, plus the fan theories and the Easter eggs as the Queen of Pop steps into her new era. We begin this hour with the federal government shutdown, though. Today marks day 3, and the effects are already starting to show, with national parks, visitor centers closed, hundreds of thousands of workers across federal agencies bracing for weeks without pay unless the government reopens. The Senate will vote once again on a funding bill later today, but it is not expected to pass, with little progress in negotiations between Democrats and Republicans. President Trump is set to meet with his budget director today as he says his administration is preparing to lay off thousands of federal workers. NBC News chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is in Washington now with the latest. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good morning. And the White House is forecasting major cuts and job losses could start as soon as today. This as the impacts of this federal government shutdown are starting to be felt all across the country with little progress in sight.
Day 3 of the federal government shutdown after a key meeting between President Trump and the architect of his plans to shrink the federal government, Russ Vought. Trump yesterday writing Vought would now recommend which, quote, Democrat agencies to cut, adding, quote, I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault, and it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted.
As for those possible layoffs, the numbers could be staggering.
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands.
A stark reality for Jenna Horton, a researcher at the National Institutes of Health, who's currently furloughed and can only check her email to see if she's been laid off.
We're not allowed to work, which is tough because most of us are really passionate about what we do.
Meanwhile, coast to coast, the early impacts of the shutdown are already being felt, with federal employees, including members of the military, working without pay. A food bank near Fort Leavenworth in Kansas prepping for an influx of need.
That's panic on real military families.
As the anxiety ramps up, Congress remains at a standstill. Republicans and Democrats are no closer to a breakthrough. The Senate GOP leader claiming there is nothing to negotiate.
As soon as they release the hostage, then we can talk about those other issues.
But Democrats like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez argue the need is now, and Republicans should come to the table.
Let's make sure that people's health care premiums are protected. Let's end this shutdown. Let's get people fed, and let's get these paychecks back flowing.
The two sides still very much stuck in their positions with no signs of a breakthrough.
And in just the last few minutes, the budget director, Russ Vought, announcing that the federal government is withholding $2.1 billion in infrastructure funding to projects in the city of Chicago as a result of the shutdown. This is just one example of how the administration is using the shutdown to cut projects. We still yet don't know when those layoff notices are coming or who could be affected, Aaron. It's leading to widespread anxiety across the federal workforce.
I'm going to stretch well into the weekend and next week. Ryan Nobles for us near Capitol Hill. Ryan, thank you. And House Speaker Mike Johnson joined the Today Show earlier this morning to talk about the government shutdown and the ongoing standoff between Republicans and Democrats. Here are some highlights from the conversation with Today Show co-anchor Craig Melvin.
The majority of Americans are blaming Republicans right now
for shutting down the government. And we should also note these are not by slim margins. Are you concerned at all that you're losing the messaging battle with voters?
We've done exactly what is always done, very clean, very simple resolution to keep the government open so that we can negotiate all these other issues. They've rejected it because they're trying to make a political play. Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, and everybody knows what this is about. He's afraid of the far left flank of his party, and so he has to put up a fight against President Trump and the Republican majorities. That's what this is about.
To folks who are just sitting and watching and listening and thinking, you know what? These guys can't even keep the government open. In the United States of America in 2025, Democrats and Republicans can't even work together to provide a functioning government.
Well, the Republicans are working right now. They've done our job. We passed a bipartisan bill out of the House to keep the government open. So if you're frustrated, call the 44 Senate Democrats who are holding this up. It is their votes that can open the government again and get it working for the people. That's a simple fact.
Mr. Speaker, technically, and not to get, again, too far in the weeds, I know you run the lower chamber. In the upper chamber, the Senate could reopen the government if they abandoned the supermajority rule. If they just decided to invoke the so-called nuclear option, they could open the government at some point. Do you consider that? Would you call on your Senate colleagues to employ that?
Yeah, in the House, we always talk about that because we do it by bare majorities, as you know, in the House. But that's their tradition. That's their they think that is a sacred rule that they have to keep. And so you got to argue with the Senate about it. But it is frustrating for us in the lower chamber, as you say, in the People's House, because we do everything by a simple majority. And we did do that. And we got it done. And we're proud to send that product over. But now we await that upper chamber.
And a reminder, Republicans have a majority in the Senate with 53 members, but they will need the votes of 7 Democrats to reach a 2/3 majority to reopen the government. The Senate will hold 2 funding revotes later today. And here in New York, disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs scheduled to be sentenced later today for 2 federal prostitution-related convictions. Prosecutors are seeking at least 11 years in prison, but Combs is making a last-ditch push for leniency. That's in a personal letter to the judge. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas is at the courthouse and joins us now with more on this. Chloe, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. The sentencing is going to take several hours, and Combs is expected to address the judge directly. And like you said about that letter, it helps us get a better idea of what Combs might say in that letter. He acknowledges his dark past and his plans to become a better man.
This morning, Sean Diddy Combs will learn his fate as a judge determines how much prison time he could serve. Combs, who did not testify in his trial, addressing the judge personally in a letter, writing, "Your Honor may be inclined to make an example out of me. I would ask Your Honor to make me an example of what a person can do if afforded a second chance." He also expressed remorse for his violent past in the now infamous 2016 video of him brutally attacking his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, saying, "I'm sorry for that and always will be." Overnight, Combs' PR team also releasing an over 11-minute-long video showing his family and work that the defense plans to play today, hoping to sway the judge. The former music mogul is also expected to address the court today, nearly 3 months after his high-profile trial.
It's a great victory for Sean Combs,
which ended in a jury finding him not guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering, which carried the possibility of life behind bars. Combs was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Depending on what the judge decides, Diddy could walk free in a matter of weeks or be sentenced up to 20 years in prison.
There is a wide range in this case, and the judge could land anywhere in that range. The probation department recommended somewhere between 5 and 7 years.
In a filing earlier this week, prosecutors argued that Combs engaged in violence and put others in fear. Members of Combs' family are expected to speak on his behalf. The judge is also expected to hear from victims, including a letter written by Ventura, who testified during the trial about the years of physical and emotional abuse she suffered at his hands. NBC News has obtained a copy of her victim impact statement, which reads in part, "I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up."
So the judge is going to take several things into consideration when deciding which federal prison Combs may go to, like the fact that he's a high-profile inmate. Where does his family live? The majority of them live in California, and the nature of the crime. So again, a lot of things to go into consideration, but Combs won't know today exactly where he's going if he is sentenced to federal prison.
All right, Chloe Malas for us outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Chloe, thank you. And overseas, Russian President Vladimir Putin has used a major annual foreign policy address to issue a new warning about U.S. involvement in the war in Ukraine. He warned that giving U.S. Tomahawk missiles, cruise missiles, to Ukraine would indicate, quote, a brand new stage of escalation. Let's bring in NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons for the latest on this. Keir, good morning. What else did Putin have to say about these missiles, and were there any sort of warmer remarks about the U.S. in this speech?
Well, he had warmer remarks for President Trump, but not so much for the U.S. I mean, you set it out very well there. President Putin saying that effectively allowing Ukraine to use, and the way it would work would be that the US would sell them to Europe, Europe would give them to Ukraine, that would be an escalation with the US, because President says the Tomahawks would have to be used with the direct involvement of a US officer. There are those this morning who are questioning whether Ukraine really has the capability to use Tomahawks at all. This was set off by the Vice President speaking last Sunday. And he suggested that it was something that President Trump was considering. Just in terms of your other question about whether he's had any warm remarks, he talks about President Trump as a good listener, kind of jokes. He says he's a good golfer, but that's good, but that's not good enough. So that relationship, that personal relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is real. That being said, people close to President Trump tell me that he is deeply, deeply frustrated with the Russian leader, and we've seen him shifting President Trump his position towards more support for Ukraine.
And Keir, you also have some new reporting that the Trump administration plans to give additional intelligence to Ukraine to help them strike at oil and gas facilities inside Russia. We know that follows the shift, as you've been talking about, with President Trump's messaging on the war in Ukraine over the last month. What more do we know about how this will look, and why now?
That's exactly right. Aside from the capability, the kind of kinetic capability that the US is able to give Ukraine uniquely, there's also a unique capability that the US has, and that's just the intelligence, the ability to tell the Ukrainians where to hit, where Russia's key locations are. That has been something that the Biden administration was very anxious about. It's something that the Trump administration has been anxious about. But three sources with knowledge tell NBC News that the Trump administration has now agreed to provide that kind of intelligence to Ukraine. And that, again, is another example of where the Trump administration is shifting after that meeting between President Trump and President Putin towards supporting Ukraine, not with money, but with capability. President Putin, by the way, in that long, almost 4 hours question and answer session speech yesterday, talked about the growing militarization of Europe and was very threatening towards Europe, saying no one doubts that Russia's response will not be long in coming. The response to threats, to put it mildly, will be very convincing.
And President Trump has said that ending the Russia-Ukraine war has been harder than he expected. Where do peace negotiations go from here, Keir? Any sign that there is progress or could be progress?
Yeah, I mean, well, in President Putin's own words, the relations are at their worst state ever, he says. And I think he includes even the Soviet era in that. We really have not got any kind of runway ahead. And part of the reason for that is because the Russians are refusing to meet with President Zelensky, even if President Trump is there. And those who pay close attention will remember that at that meeting between President Trump and President Putin, that was one of the things that President Trump really thought he got out of this, to try and move things forward, that there would be able to be that bilateral meeting between the Ukrainian leader and the Russian leader, or a trilateral meeting. There's no indication of that. And what was clear really from, and again clear because we've seen this many times, from President Putin's comments yesterday, is that he really believes Russia is winning and can win this despite the evidence on the ground.
All right, Keir Simmons for us, keeping an eye on the Russia-Ukraine war this morning. Keir, thank you. And back here in the U.S., new video is showing the massive fire that broke out overnight at the largest oil refinery on the West Coast. Take a look at some of the images here. This started just before midnight Pacific time with large flames, massive plumes of smoke shooting into the air. This is at the Chevron oil refinery just south of Los Angeles. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in El Segundo, California with the latest on all this. Liz, good morning.
Hi, Aaron. Good morning. Well, the refinery is there behind me. You can see they are getting this under control now, but witnesses say overnight they could just hear this loud roar when this explosion happened. One witness said it felt like an earthquake reverberating across the city. And then, of course, the video showing these huge plumes of smoke and flames billowing into the sky, turning the sky orange. Officials say thankfully there have been no injuries, but it did prompt a massive emergency response and a shelter in place here in this immediate area. The sky over Los Angeles lit up red overnight.
We have heavy flames showing from the refinery.
As a massive fire broke out at Chevron's El Segundo refinery, sending large flames and dark plumes of smoke into the air.
The sky just lit up orange, and we're not used to that, so everyone ran down the street to be like, what's happening?
Explosions from the refinery rocked the surrounding area as the fire raged.
Holy!
Chris and Kevin Castigar live a few blocks away.
And then all of a sudden it just vibrates. It sounds like
it was an earthquake.
Like it was an earthquake. So what we felt was the shockwave of the explosion, from what we can assume. And then it was just burning.
Nothing like this has ever happened.
The huge refinery has its own fire department and makes gasoline, jet, and diesel fuel, supplying 20% of all vehicle fuel in California. Emergency response came swiftly from the cities of El Segundo and Manhattan Beach, as well as the refinery's department, working in tandem to extinguish the towering flames.
They had the fire out within an hour.
Yeah, they had it out within an hour.
Chevron confirming in a statement that all refinery personnel and contractors have been accounted for and there are no injuries, and that no evacuation orders for area residents have been put in place. But LA County also warning residents in the area to stay inside and keep their windows and doors shut due to potential air quality issues. So again, officials say the fire is contained. The shelter in place that was put into effect here has now been lifted. But this is really a critical refinery. It also provides all of the jet fuel for LAX. The mayor overnight said that there are no known impacts to the airport. And the cause, what led to this fire, is still unclear. Aaron.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you. Well, two popular weight loss drugs will now be a little cheaper out of pocket if you shop at Costco. Novo Nordisk announcing the new collaboration just for Costco members. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joining us now with more on this. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Aaron. Novo Nordisk is partnering with Costco to bring Wegovy and the diabetes drug Ozempic to their shelves.
Shoppers associate Costco with value. Now, a new deal. Novo Nordisk partnering with the popular warehouse chain to offer its 120 million members the weight loss drug Wegovy and the diabetes drug Ozempic for about half the price when paying out of pocket.
Why have you decided to do this?
Because we want to make sure we offer the real, authentic Wegovy and Ozempic where patients seek care. And we know that Costco is a trusted brand.
You won't be able to pull the drugs off the shelf like rolls of paper towels. You will need a prescription from your health provider and $499 for a 4-week supply of injectable pens, which are not covered by most insurance programs. Despite that, GLP-1 drugs for weight loss like Wegovy have revolutionized the diet industry.
Getting on the GLP-1 is literally the best thing that I could have done for my health.
Hollywood stars and world-class athletes have embraced them. And people who have long struggled to lose weight see them as miracle drugs.
The price is a lot.
Bill Ellis used to buy the weight loss drugs off of Novo Nordisk's website. But high prices are part of the reason why he stopped.
You know, it was basically us trading out having any sort of vacation for the summer with our kids to be on this medication.
Drug companies are trying to improve access with more discounts like the new Costco deal.
Is it still too expensive for most people?
This is definitely a step in the right direction, but it's not necessarily getting the medicine to people who need it the most at a price that is affordable.
Upcoming pill versions of these weight loss drugs could offer users more options. But critics argue the manufacturers should be doing even more to bring prices down.
And how much lower could it go?
It could continue to decrease, for sure. That's possible. But what's most important is that we increase the coverage with health insurance.
Now, with these drugs sold in more places, can Americans get a better deal?
Well, that's easier said than done. A recent KFF survey says that fewer than 1 in 5 large companies offer insurance coverage for these weight loss drugs. And GoodRx, well, it finds that those companies that do offer coverage have actually tightened their restrictions on who can benefit and how much they will pay.
Demand just goes up so much, you would expect there's going to have to be some changes.
12% of Americans have already tried them. Yeah.
Wow.
And mainly women between the ages of 50 and 64.
All right, more to come. Ann Thompson, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, from heavy showers in the southeast to summer-like temperatures in the Great Lakes, a grab bag this weekend in your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joining us now. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Aaron. And even a little higher elevation snow in the Intermountain West. So it's all about location today and through the weekend, of course. Yeah, we're looking at all of that. Summer-like temperatures into the 80s and 90s, into the plains, the upper Midwest, into the upper Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes, and lots of sunshine. Plenty of us throughout the day today. You can see from New England to the mid-Atlantic, down through portions of the south central states, the plains also. The wet spots really soggy in the southeast, especially in Florida. We're looking at anywhere from 5 even up to 8 inches of rain in some spots. We've already had rain over the past few days, so any heavy downpours will lead to localized flooding. Notice off to the west, too, we're looking at some strong storms in the Intermountain West, so we're going to see some rain, some storms there, and then again, that higher elevation snow, about 5,000, even 9,000 feet levels there where we'll see some snow and could see up to a foot of snow in some spots. By Saturday, we do have some showers and storms continuing the Intermountain West. Record heat continues in parts of the plains into the upper Midwest. Again, we're going to see temperatures soaring into the 80s and 90s. And just to put this in perspective, we're going to see averages 15 to 30 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. The flood risk continues in Florida, especially along the east coast of Florida, but lots of sunshine throughout New England, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, down to the mid-Atlantic, also the Tennessee Valley, Mississippi Valley into the south central states. So many of us dry on Saturday. This is what Sunday looks like. The rain continuing in Florida. And notice that green kind of extends into the Gulf Coast states. So now we're talking about New Orleans as well on Sunday. We do have flood alerts in effect through Sunday morning, where you see the green: Daytona Beach, Melbourne, Fort Pierce. That's where we're looking at the chance for some flooding. And we could see some flash flooding in spots also. So you want to be very aware as you head out on Saturday and Sunday. And today we're looking at that flood risk targeting portions of the Sunshine State. Not so sunny today. Moisture funneling from the Atlantic. It's what's left over from Imelda. So we do have some tropical moisture that contains a lot of rainfall. We're going to see 2 to 3 inches per hour in some spots. And that flood risk does continue tomorrow. So we'll see that additional rain moving on shore. And we're going to see gusty winds too, Aaron, just one guy. We're looking at the chance for some gusty winds and also some lightning. Happy Friday to you, Aaron. Always good to see you.
The weekend is here. We're glad to see it. Michelle Grossman. Thank you, Michelle.
Yes.
Well, much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, a new study shows more Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We'll share what concerns people have as they look toward retirement. Up first, though, Prince William opening up about his wife's battle with cancer, as well as the loss of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. We'll tell you what he had to say. We're back now with the latest developments on that deadly synagogue attack in the UK. This morning, authorities revealed that they believe one of the victims may have been shot by police. The Greater Manchester Police said in a statement, quote, "It is currently believed that the suspect, Jihad al-Shami, was not in possession of a firearm, and the only shots fired were from GMP's authorized firearms officers. 2 people were killed and 3 others seriously injured when the suspect drove into a crowd and stabbed worshippers outside a synagogue on the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. Police have arrested 3 others, and they say the attack is being investigated as a terrorist incident." The Church of England has appointed its first female leader. Sarah Mullally has become the first woman Archbishop of Canterbury in the church's 500-year history, leading some 85 million Anglicans worldwide. Reforms made 11 years ago made it possible for a woman to take on this role, Mullally's appointment comes after her predecessor, Justin Welby, was forced to resign following the church's handling of a sex abuse scandal. Well, coming up, it is day 3 of the government shutdown as federal workers face potential job cuts. Up next, we'll take a closer look at the man orchestrating the possible layoffs, and he is well known on the streets of Washington. You're watching Morning News Now. We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the FDA signing off on a second generic abortion pill. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Serkin is in Washington with that and more. Julie, good morning.
Hey, Aaron. Good morning. Yep, we begin here in the D.C. area where the Food and Drug Administration this week quietly approved an abortion pill. No press release or anything. The generic form of mifepristone. It's one of 2 medications used in most abortions, about 2/3 in the United States. This is now the second generic abortion pill approved by the FDA, and the decision comes a few weeks after the nation's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., told Republicans the FDA would review the drug's safety. As you can probably imagine, anti-abortion activists are not happy, and this decision is only fueling more skepticism of Kennedy among those groups, since remember, Kennedy is a former Democrat who formerly advocated for abortion rights. Okay, staying here in D.C., President Trump has determined that the country is in, quote, an armed conflict with drug cartels, according to a notice the Pentagon sent to members of Congress. Those drug cartels have been designated as terrorist organizations by the Trump administration, which carried out multiple strikes over the last month, including on a boat in the Caribbean, believed to be transporting cartel members. Democratic lawmakers have pushed back, claiming the White House has yet to provide credible justification or evidence for these strikes. And finally, a sword spat, yes, a sword spat, led to the resignation of the guy in charge of the Eisenhower Presidential Library. Todd Arrington, he's a career historian. He said he stepped down this week because he resisted turning over an original Eisenhower sword out of the library's collection. President Trump apparently wanted to gift the sword to King Charles last month when he visited the UK. The sword was meant to reiterate the significance of the relationship between the two countries dating back to World War II. But Arrington, that historian, said the sword is the property of the American people, and then he says he was told to resign, something the White House has denied. And that is a look at what is making news in politics this morning. Aaron?
All right, Julie Serkin in Washington. Julie, thank you. Well, let's stay on politics with an in-depth look at a central figure in the government shutdown. Russell Vought is one of the president's most because he's the one making those potential federal layoffs. NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard explains.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
When President Trump came into office this year, Elon Musk was his chainsaw, in charge of trimming the perceived fat of government through Doge.
People voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get.
But after months of heavy critique, protests, and skydiving Tesla stocks, Musk stepped back. But while he was making noise out in the spotlight, Trump's main budget chief, the man who really holds the purse strings for the White House, quietly worked out of the public eye to further the Doge agenda.
We have to use executive tools to find other ways to make the Doge cuts permanent.
His name, Vought, the president's hand-picked director of the U.S. Office of Management and Budget.
Presidents use OMB to tame the bureaucracy, the administrative state.
Vought held the same role during Trump's first term, but now he and the president are using the government shutdown to give Vought the power to unilaterally make budget cuts.
You all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way.
Vought suggesting layoffs for federal employees in a memo to federal agencies just last week. The president posting that he would be meeting with Vought to decide which of the, quote, Democratic agencies Vought recommends slicing. Before the meeting, Vought threatened cuts to clean energy projects in 16 Democrat-led states and infrastructure projects in New York.
Well, thank you, Carolina. And we're not targeting federal agencies based on politics.
So who is the man who appears to have the high trust of President Trump and gets to decide which federal workers will stay and which will go? Before joining the White House, Vought spent almost 2 decades in various conservative roles on the Hill. He later served as the vice president of Heritage Action for America, one of the organizations behind Project 2025, which Trump repeatedly denied knowing anything about on the campaign trail.
Never read it. I don't want to read it. I have no idea what Project 2025 is.
Despite that, he tapped Vogt, who co-authored part of Project 2025, the chapter called Taking the Reins of Government, Executive Office of the President of the United States.
We have to solve the woke and the weaponized bureaucracy and have the president take control of the executive branch.
During his first run as Trump's budget chief, Vogt is described in Project 2025 as having, quote, overseen the implementation of the presidential budget, key policies on deregulation, and a landmark effort to eliminate radical ideologies. This time around, he pushed for cuts to the Education Department, Medicaid, and foreign aid, adding earlier this year he didn't believe the Government Accountability Office should exist.
We're not big fans of GAO. They are a quasi-legislative independent entity. Again, something that shouldn't exist.
Now, with Trump seemingly giving his budget director wide discretion and powers, it'll be Vogt who, in these hours or days ahead, could leave a lasting impact on the American government.
Thanks to Vaughn Hillier for that report. Coming up, OpenAI's Sora just got a big update that's creating quite a buzz on the internet. When we come back, we'll tell you about the brand new features users can look forward to, and we'll explain why there are some concerns. Stay with us. We are back now with a new retirement study by Goldman Sachs that shows more Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It's a trend that's prevalent among 42% of younger generations, Gen Z, Gen X, millennials. Among that group, nearly 3/4 say they are struggling to save for retirement. Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. Caleb, good morning. So first off, just sort of walk us through some of the key findings from this survey.
Yeah, this is a Goldman Sachs retirement survey, and it really points to what they call a financial vortex, when you have 42% of Gen Z and Gen X survey respondents saying they have no spare savings after just paying for the basics in their life. And when you think about the basics, we're talking about their home ownership or their rental payments. That's 50% of income. Home ownership now, home affordability at an all-time low, but also healthcare, that's 16% of their paycheck. So they're barely getting by just paying for the needs, not even the wants right now.
Do we have an understanding of the why of this? Why are more Americans struggling to save for retirement right now? Or what is our understanding of the financial pressures people are dealing with?
Yeah, well, we've had wage increases of around 3 to 4% a year. It's not keeping up with inflation, even though inflation, the headline number is 3%. The big expenses, home ownership, paying the rent, those are what is taxing people the most. And also just the rising cost of food and everything else. So they're not able to make it week to week, and they're not able to save for retirement. A lot of older workers are saying they're not even have enough to save for their retirement. Their retirement's coming up in a few years.
So help us think through this. We'll pick your brain a little bit on this in terms of what people can do. What do you think people should start thinking about so that they can plan for retirement and be able to put a little more money away?
It's a readjustment of the way you think about how much money you're going to need. And a lot of people need to do the very basics, which is determine the cost of what it costs to be you today and the cost you want to be you in the future, and then automate your savings. That number. We all kind of, those of us that get a 401k say, okay, I know I'm putting 10% away, but you have to actually increase that number if you want to save for retirement. Again, recalculating that cost. What does it actually cost to be you on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis? And then you got to increase your income. If you can't make it through paycheck cycles or even save enough for retirement, you need a side gig, you need another part-time job just to make it happen. Things are only going to get more expensive, and we know there's a lot of pressure right now on the labor market.
Yeah, I think about when I started my career, like the work-life balance wasn't a term. People just didn't use it. But now you've got so many people who feel like, I'm going to take this vacation, I'm going to spend this money on this discretionary thing at a time when retirement then would have to suffer. It's about really finding the right balance.
Right, and we're not telling people to put themselves on an austerity diet, so to speak. You know, don't go without the latte. We're talking about big long-term plans of being the CFO of your own life and saying, how much will it cost to 50 when I'm 60, and then working back from that number. This is a problem that's only going to increase because the labor market's tight, the cost of living keeps on increasing, and there's going to be pressures on the labor market and through this economy for the foreseeable future.
You have to sit down and deliberately plan for these things, right?
You're the CFO of your own life.
All right, Caleb Silver, we appreciate it. Thanks. A little more money news this morning. Reports suggesting Boeing is facing a delay of its new jet debut. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and our Wall Street headlines. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good morning. Happy Friday. Yes, so Boeing reportedly delaying the delivery of its 777X jet into early 2027. Now, the first aircraft, it had been due next year. But Bloomberg reports several analysts are expecting the aerospace giant to announce a charge related to the delay, ranging from $1 billion to $4 billion when it reports quarterly results later this month. Now, Boeing CEO Kelly Orper did say in September that the company was behind schedule in certifying the jet, though he didn't indicate another delay. Meanwhile, the White House is reportedly considering $10 billion or more in aid for U.S. farmers as they face mounting economic pressure from tariffs. The Wall Street Journal reports the president is weighing the idea of using tariff revenue to fund most of the aid, which would go in large part to soybean producers who've been hit hard by China's decision to stop importing soybeans from the U.S. And Fannie Mae is predicting declining mortgage rates ahead. So according to its latest report, the government-sponsored mortgage giant expects rates to settle at 6.4% by the end of this year, but to drop to 5.9% by the end of 2026. Fannie Mae's prior forecast had rates settling at 6.1% next year, Aaron.
All right, we'll take that. Nice little drop.
Yeah, for
there.
Sure. Yeah.
Silvana Henao, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this morning we are taking a closer look at the new social media app Sora 2, created by ChatGPT. It made robust updates to the original Sora platform by allowing people to create completely fake TikTok-style videos using artificial intelligence to depict themselves or their friends in almost any kind of scenario. For more on this, let's bring in Lance Ulanoff. He is the editor-at-large at Tech Radar. Lance, we appreciate you joining us this morning to talk a little bit about this. We know OpenAI, which operates Sora 2, is really the first major tech company to build a social media video platform that focuses solely on these fake videos, right? What do you think is the appeal of this?
Well, you know, we've had now AI in our lives, generative AI, for the last few years, and it's really taken the world by storm. Consumers are using it all over the place, and it's been an arms race across all these companies to provide better and more powerful tools. You know, Google did Veo 3, which put together audio and video for the first time. But here with OpenAI and Sora 2, this is the first time we're getting a social media AI app. And it was really inevitable, of course, you know, because everything moves at AI time. Things happen much more quickly than they did in normal tech space. And this is a really powerful tool, and that immediately can invite you using a feature called Cameo to put yourself and your friends inside these completely unreal 10-second videos.
Wow. Okay. So a lot to digest there. And you think about the potential that exists for something like this. Are there any risks to the public with having a platform that allows people to so easily create this type of AI video product?
I really feel like the only proper response is nothing is real. I mean, you look at these videos, they're incredible. The quality, the physics that they maintain, everything looks so real, and the audio together, and videos can, you know how social media works. These videos spread virally, right? They just get downloaded, they get shared, and so we're not going to be able to trust things. Now, a lot of the videos are really just fantastic. You know, people flying, the earth opening up under them into a special, vortex. But sometimes they're just subtle. You know, where it looks like two men are climbing a mountain, they're covered in snow, and it looks very real. Something that looked like Game of Thrones. You know, how will we tell the difference? Right? How are we going to know? And I think that's one of the risks. The other risk is that, yes, it is invite only, and two, also Cameo, you have to opt in. No one can just take your image and put it in there. But what if you are no longer friends with someone? And now you have to say, take down all those AI videos of me. The good news is that if you've given them permission, you can use your ID to remove permission, and the videos will disappear. I don't know about the copies.
You just have to get really smart with using this stuff, it sounds like. One of the reasons that we saw Hollywood actors and writers go on strike back in 2023 was to keep AI out of TV and out of movies. So now that we have apps like Sora, which will allow people to create these large-scale AI videos, and there's now even, Tilly Norwood, the AI actress out there, Is it possible to sort of keep trying to put a lid on how AI is used at this point, or all bets off?
Yeah, the horses have left the stable, the toothpaste is out of the tube, all of those things work. Tilly Norwood is a thing and not an actress, right? And I think that's the thing I'm hearing from flesh and blood actors and actresses out there who are pretty upset about this. At this point, this creation doesn't have a job on a TV show, but it is a very slippery slope, and we are sliding down it faster than you can imagine. So, I always tell people that, with AI, you just have to anticipate it's going to infiltrate your life. You cannot put your head in the sand. You have to learn how to use it, get the most out of it, and work hard to develop with the people who can control this, the guardrails that can protect us. That's why it's so concerning that there's literally no AI regulation at this point.
We just have to look twice at everything, it seems like now. You just can't trust your own eyes anymore.
100%. Pay attention. Don't trust what you see.
All right. Lance Ulanoff from Tech Radar, we appreciate your time and expertise on this. Thank you much.
Pleasure.
Well, in Pennsylvania, some high schoolers are being trained to instruct a class of their own through a new student teaching pilot program. The hands-on experience is helping to alleviate some overworked school teachers while putting students on a fast track to becoming educators themselves. NBC News correspondent Maya Eaglin has the story.
On your mark, get set, go.
There's an extra student in this Pittsburgh elementary school class.
Good job!
High school student Avery Wazzo and her friend Erin Knoll are part of the Aspiring Educators program, growing the next generation of teachers.
It's a preparatory college program for people that want to be educators and to get a taste of education inside the classroom.
I'm supporting them, I'm keeping them going.
Go ahead and cheer yourselves on out.
In return, these high schoolers get college credits to a local university and relieve some of the heavy workloads of busy elementary school teachers.
Find the students that are in high school that have an interest, where they might be interested in it, but if they're not given the hands-on, the real classroom experiences, they're never going to ignite their passion.
Nationally, schools have been struggling to keep teachers in the profession. According to an analysis by the Learning Policy Institute, there are over 411,000 empty teacher positions in the U.S. And the Trump administration has made some significant budget cuts, including millions of dollars in education grants and teacher training, as well as proposing multi-billion-dollar cuts to the Department of Education. The Aspiring Educators program doesn't rely on these funds, but is trying to fix the national issue on a local level.
How bad is the teacher shortage right now?
It's a problem. It's an ever-growing problem, and the teacher shortage problem is just getting worse. Last year in Pennsylvania alone, we lost 9,000 of our teachers. And last year, we prepared only 5,000 new teachers. So you can see in just 1 year a gap.
Why do you think not a lot of young people consider a career as a teacher these days?
If I'm being completely honest, it's because this job isn't for the pay. I wouldn't say that you go into education looking to make $1 million. You go into education looking to build relationships and change people's lives. Once we all had the chance to walk into a classroom and see it, the pay didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, we need all the squares.
There are so many things that we need to do in our schools to surround our kids with the things that they need. And the most important thing in which we can invest is the presence of a loving and caring and brilliant adult.
Planting the seeds of curious minds to help nurture the learners of tomorrow.
We are your future, so it's time to invest in the future.
Maya Eaglin, NBC News.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.